Hello my friends, in today's video we are looking at how to use would prefer or would rather. Now both of them express a preference, something you prefer. First of all, let's test what you know. Fill the gaps with either prefer or rather. Go. Okay, the first one. She would prefer to pay now. Now, when we use prefer, she would prefer, we use the to in the infinitive of the verb. So, she would prefer to pay now. She is the subject of the preference, she would prefer, and she is the subject of pay. So, we use the infinitive. She would prefer to pay now. The second one. He would prefer not to talk about it. Okay, in this one we use prefer because look, we have the infinitive of the verb. We have the to. But this time it's negative. And when you make a negative of an infinitive, you use not. So he is the subject of the preference. He is the subject of the talk. So we use the infinitive with prefer. He would prefer not to talk about it. The next one. Okay, in the next one, I would rather not go. Now, when we use rather, we use the not to make a negative, but we don't have a to. We use the bare infinitive. I would rather go. I would rather not go. So when we use rather, no to. Next one is a question. Okay, would you rather wait until tomorrow? So again, we use rather because there's no to. There's no to in the infinitive. When we use rather, we don't put the to. Would you rather wait until tomorrow? Okay, now in this one we have I is the subject of the preference and I is the subject of go. They are the same. In this one, would you rather wait? You is the subject of the preference and you is the subject of the wait verb. In this one, we have a different subject for the preference and for the verb. So, but we don't have an infinitive. We don't have a to in here. So we're going to use rather. But when we have a different subject and we are using rather, we need to use the second verb in the past. Okay, so he would rather, we started without him. The subject of the preference and the subject of the verb are different. And when we use rather, we use the past. If we want to make this phrase negative, we use the past here as well. He would rather we didn't start without him. So rather, with two different subjects for the preference and the verb, use the past. Okay, he would. Okay, now here it's prefer because we are not using the past with prefer. We are using the infinitive. And you will see as well, if there are two different subjects for the preference and for the verb, we use the object pronoun. He would prefer us to start without him. He would prefer me to start without him. Okay, so prefer doesn't use the past. Prefer uses the infinitive, but it uses the object pronoun. And in this final example, you can see we have a question. Shall we start? And in this case, you have two alternatives. He would rather, his preference is that we don't start. When we use would rather, we use the past. Okay, he would rather we didn't. Shall we start? Well, he would rather we didn't. If you use prefer, you're going to use the object pronoun and you're going to use to, which is part of the infinitive. So, shall we start? He would prefer us not to. Okay, so these two are answers to this question. And we are using the auxiliary in the past because we have different subjects. And we are using the object pronoun and the to because we don't need the verb when we have this type of question. Thanks for watching. See you next time.